Hi, very good afternoon. Gene from Avstar. Well, when Donald Trump, a few weeks ago, or maybe a month ago now, was talking about we have a way of addressing people that give false information now on social media, well, maybe he meant what is occurring more frequently now and what you're going to hear a lot of your regular people that you subscribe to talk about. And what I'm on about is throttling back the viewers from seeing the videos. If you want a classic example, go back 12 months on my videos, have a look at the amount of views that we were getting, and then gradually look what's happened. They've got an algorithm going on YouTube at the moment, which is deployed if you are one of these people that talk about alternative news that isn't being covered in the mainstream news media. And this is their tool, their latest tool, or one of their latest tools that they're using now against people on social media that are, revealing things to the general public that the government wouldn't want you to know. So it's clear we're living in a fascist state, as well as a state globally that has now witnessed the collapse of the standard economic capital system. And I keep saying this, I'm going to keep going on about this for weeks, guys, because it's big. It needs to be addressed. You need to start talking about it with your family members and your friends and your little organisations, because it's a fascist state now that we live. I said years ago, this is a bit odd. They seem to be restricting people talking on certain subjects like vaccines and the pandemic. They can just come in and shut you down, give you a strike, or even throw your YouTube channel away or any other media channel. The governments of the world have threatened social media platforms that if they don't comply, they will be charged licence fees for operating in their countries. And of course, these social media platforms don't want to pay excessive licence fees. And the other thing is, when you introduce a licence fee to a platform such as YouTube, Twitter, X, etc., you can always withhold the licence if they don't comply. So a couple of years ago, I was talking about how the Nazis in the 1930s were collecting up information and setting fire to it, burning of the books, burning of literature, anything of the non-status quo that the government at that time set. If it went against it in any form of fashion, it was burned. And of course, our parliamentary leaders, our senators, you name it, politicians globally and world leaders would love us to believe that there is such thing as democracy still in place. And of course, we have awoken now to a new dawn and a new way of life where democracy doesn't exist. In the purest form of democracy, you would be allowed to talk about things of any nature on any topic without being persecuted for it. And now we can no longer do that. And like I said, two of my people that I regularly subscribe to on YouTube today have mentioned that they are being throttled back. They are being censored. I've had it happen here myself. Just some of the things that YouTube have did to me, and it's nothing short of a persecution. They demonetised me without giving me good reason to do so. They unsubscribed my subscribers and continue to do that. They don't notify my subscribers anymore, or if they do, only a few. And they have throttled back, using their algorithms. It's like my videos hardly ever get picked up or even put in, a situation where a new subscriber now can see them. If it weren't for just people that are already subscribed to my channel saying to their friends and family members, I got this information from here. He's a an honest, reasonable guy with reasonable information. Subscribe. If it weren't for people doing that, I wouldn't be here now. Because what we're seeing is a slow decay over the last year or so of the subscribers. There was a cap put on the channel of 60,000 subscribers, which means I could never go over that cap regardless. Yet I've been on YouTube for over 10 years. And when I see people that now enter YouTube talk about stupid things that dumb intelligent people down. You know, they've probably got 10,000 or 12,000 subscribers, but the views on their last video are in the 5,000, 6,000 region. Yeah, go figure. So we have definitely entered a new time. People that are trying to inform others of what's going on. You know, the biggest thing I could tell people about today, if they asked me, would be two things. One, primarily, our Earth is experiencing some dramatic changes which 98% of the population have never even heard of, that being the magnetic pole reversal. And two, you know, we face a time now such as that are, you know, elderly family members that have passed and that are still with us in few numbers experienced, which led to fascism and restriction of speech, persecution for talking about certain subjects. And, you know, how long will it be before we see the next thing that came after that in the 1930s? How long will it be before we see the death camps? Well, I ask you this question because they don't care whether you are able to participate in the broken capital system anymore. We are witnessing tens and tens of millions of people all around the world now which have been outcast from the capital system because we haven't got the money to participate, or simply we can't afford to participate. Regardless if you are prepared to swap your labour for a wage or get a job, it doesn't make any difference now, because you still, even after earning a reasonable salary considered today, of what would be a reasonable salary, you still will be in debt at the end of the month and not be able to recover from that. So those people that are experiencing this right now, and those that will be experiencing in the months to come, have been outcast from the broken capital system. And I said this in the video this morning, the capital system was never for the rich people only. You know, I heard this 5 years ago and I shrugged my shoulder when someone said something about it. They said, we are entering times like the film The Hunger Games, where all these rich, bored people have got nothing better to do than select people from certain areas, set them up against themselves to fight for the death, till the death. How long before we see this behaviour come back? Because this is something that has been repeated not just in the last 100 years of our existence, but it goes right back to the Romans and the days of the gladiators, where people were whipped up off the streets, put into an arena for entertainment. Or if you went against, you know, the Roman Empire in any form of fashion, you found yourself in the lion pit. Yep. So we are here. And, you know, what I'm seeing right now is a slow bringing to the boil of people's patience. If you look at what happened recently in Los Angeles, you know, in Paris, you know, people's patience is wearing extremely thin. People are sick and tired of excessive taxes. People are sick and tired of the fundamentals that allow a person to survive being unaffordable. And people at the same time are sick and tired of these politicians making promises that they simply do not keep, neither are they legally bound to keep. A manifesto is not a legal binding document. So that person knows when they become, like our Prime Minister here in the UK, when he becomes Prime Minister, it doesn't make any difference, because becoming the Prime Minister was all he was ever interested in, because now he's able to make business deals for his buddies, his family members and himself. And it should come as no surprise to you that all these politicians, funnily enough, guess what, are millionaires. Isn't that a coincidence? Eh? It's not real synchronicity, of course not. They would never want you to believe that this was more than a coincidence, that they were rich. And there's another one, Donald Trump. A multi-millionaire, in fact a billionaire, wants to be the president. What for? Well, it certainly isn't for the salary that he's paid as being a president. So what else could he possibly want to be the president for? Think about it. I will say this, that these rich, wealthy people like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and I could go on naming them, like Donald Trump, they're greedy. That's what I've noticed about them. It's never enough. Whatever they've got, they always want more. How selfish is that? That's what sort of people we've got in living amongst us. That's what sort of people we have, not just living amongst us, but leading us. The worst people that could be put in charge of leadership are the ones that have got those jobs secured already. And they do not care about people sleeping in the streets, people losing their property because they wasn't able to access the opportunity for them to exchange their labour so that they could get a job and earn money and then participate in the monetary system. They've let it go that bad that the monetary system has collapsed. For millions and millions of people, it no longer serves a purpose to us, because what is the point? We earn what we're given, this small amount of money, and it still doesn't pay for us to have a life. We can't even afford to live the quality level of a slave, because a slave would get accommodation, he would get food, and he would get clothed. People are living without that level of life at the moment, and it's no joke, and it's getting worse, and prices are set to soar in the shops even more than what they are now. Your rent is set to soar even higher than what it is now. Your mortgages are going to go up. The fuel for your car is going to increase even more now, because there is no control. There is no governance. There is no regulation. They have been allowed to do what they want. These robbers, thieves and crooks and gangsters and mafia and organised gangs and crime members. This is what we've got right now. And these politicians have the audacity, the absolute audacity, to point a finger at other people, point a finger at somebody stealing bacon from a shop and say that they are a criminal, when they allow their buddies to go into the pension pots of thousands and thousands of people and steal that money. They have the audacity to say that the guy who pinched a bit of bacon because he was starving, he is the criminal. Things are out of perspective, and they're going to keep getting further and further afield and more out of perspective, because the system is broken, guys. Do you understand? This system that we've got as broken. If you have no money at the end of the month after you have shared your labour, given your time for your employee, and he has paid you a sum of money, and it is not enough to sustain a normal life and pay those normal bills, those natural bills like electricity, gas, rent, council tax, car insurance, car fuel and food, then you know the capital system has collapsed and no longer includes you. And you are not alone, because you are one of tens and tens of millions of people now worldwide. If you don't believe me, then the very next thing you need to do after listening to this video is just select a country of your choice and then add these words afterwards: cost of living crisis. Because you will see that what I'm talking about is 100% true. And the reason why platforms like YouTube, TikTok and all the others, and people will say, well, TikTok's owned by a communist country, China. Yeah, you talk about something bad, have a TikTok account and talk about something bad about Chinese Communist Party. Do it. Watch what happens. So they're all as bad as each other. These world governments are all using these platforms to persecute people that don't like their style of propaganda. And that's why you're going to hear more and more of your subscribers that you subscribe to telling you what is going on. And I want to ask this question: what are you doing for your subscribers? Because they have been going out their way, like me, for years and years and years, to make sure that people get informed of important aspects that relate to people's living and livelihoods. What are you doing to support people like us? Because you realise this isn't an ever-ending road. This road don't go on forever. You do realise that, don't you? Because at some point they lose their patience. The governments of the world, the politicians, they lose their patience and they shut down these platforms, and you are then left with no access to alternative information. So I ask you the question: what are you doing for those people that are going out their way, collecting the information and sharing it with you? And if those people weren't about, what would you do for your information? Because it's nice and easy now. For the majority of people, the information comes every day. But what happens if that stops? All of a sudden, where do you get your information from then? I'm not having a go at you guys. I'm just trying to help you see what is happening in this world right now and how bad it's going to get. I want you to think about it, guys. The world has changed. The capital system has broken. It broke because it no longer serves everybody as it should do. And when it doesn't serve tens and tens of billions of people, then what are those tens and tens of billions of people supposed to do when they have been barred from a system through no fault of their own? The only reason why they was barred was simply and utterly because they couldn't afford. If you have no sympathy for these people, well, don't expect anyone to have any sympathy for you. Because it's true saying, you reap what you sow. As always, bye for now.